Deep within the Caverns of Cynder, Beaumont and Tornobu, together with Sally Mason, Kane Winters, and Steve Earle, and their trusty dog, Swampy, prepare to begin their final, desperate search for the missing Lucy Hancock, somewhere deep within the sulphurous caverns. I say, we'll be bloody lucky to find her alive in a place like this. I'm surprised we've made it this far ourselves.
We must continue our search, Beaumont-san, if there is even the slightest chance that Lucy Hancock is alive. We must pursue it to the very end.
Well, I ain't gonna see a young lady left in a place like this. If she's here, we'll find her. You mark my words, gentlemen. All right, well, let's get to it then, shall we? Beaumont leads the way, holding the lantern aloft, and pressing on deeper into the sulphurous caverns of Cynder. Stepping through a decrepit marble archway, he finds himself in a magma tunnel. The boiling, blistering heat scorches his skin, while the rest of the posse move to catch up with him. Tornobu moves ahead, deeper into the magma tunnel, while Swampy runs even further ahead, the inquisitive dog risking getting too far.
Swampy! Do not go too far, you silly Inu.
The dog obeys Tornobu's command and remains nearby, and it is just as well as from a nearby archway, the massive, lumbering form of a lava man stumbles into the room. The demonic, animated rocks and lava bubble and groan as it sets its sights on the intruders. Beaumont rushes through the cavern and comes to Swampy's side, ensuring the dog comes to no harm. Another one of you buggers, eh? Well, try this one for size, says Beaumont, drawing his shotgun. And squeezing the triggers. The devastating blast destroys the animated rocks and lava in a fiery explosion. These bloody things aren't so tough.
Do not be overconfident, Beaumont-san. By itself, one of these things may be weak, but together, I'm sure they could pose a deadly challenge.
Maybe you're right, Tornobu. Let's keep moving. The posse take a moment to gather their wits, and as they do so, Beaumont hears the faint voice of a girl calling from deeper into the caverns. That voice, it must be young Lucy. Perhaps she is alive after all. Come on, let's go, quickly, Beaumont says, heading in the direction of the voice, and passing through another of the marble archways, finds himself in yet another magma tunnel. Tornobu follows, catching up to Beaumont, while Sally Mason heads off to explore another of the entryways. She finds herself in a passageway that splits off in two separate directions. Swampy barks happily and runs off, taking the left fork of the passage. It looks like Swampy's found something, she says. All right, but don't be getting too far away. It's dangerous down here, says Beaumont. Swampy continues down the passage and finds that the long tunnel once again splits, this time opening up into three new directions. I'll be coming with you, Missy. Don't you boys worry. Me and Steve will make sure no harm comes to the dog or the girl.
Arigato, Winter-san.
In the magma tunnel, Beaumont finds a frail-looking figure sitting alone at the center of a circle of burning rooms etched into the stone. He can hear him gently sobbing in his madman's prison. Beaumont calls out to him. You there, are you okay? Without looking up, he whispers a riddle which haunts Beaumont's mind. As he tries to comprehend the strange words, he feels his sanity beginning to slip away.
What did he say, Beaumont-san?
asks Tornobu. Some bloody nonsense. Says he grows in the dark and shrinks in the light, whatever that's supposed to mean.
It is a riddle, Beaumont-san. The answer is a shadow, of course.
Oh yes, of course. It's obvious, isn't it? I knew that.
I think he is trying to tell us we are on the correct path. Let us continue on our journey.
Yes, let's go. Beaumont continues through the magma tunnel, ignoring the whispering madman and pressing on towards the next entryway. Torinobu, meanwhile, takes a single step forward, preparing himself for what may lie ahead. Meanwhile, at the other end of the magma tunnel, Sally Mason heads down the pathway opposite Swampy and finds herself emerging in a large drilling chamber, where large mechanical drilling machines are embedded in the crust, boring down into the magma below in search of liquid dark stone. The rumble and roar of the machines seems to shake the very foundations of the world. As she enters the chamber, she hears the weeping of a young girl, and carefully looking around, she eventually spies a figure hiding behind one of the drilling machines. As she gets closer, it begins to retreat, but then Swampy runs into the chamber with her, barking happily and wagging his tail. The figure suddenly emerges slowly from behind the drilling machines, and to her shock, Sally sees the figure is composed of spectral blue light and hovers above the ground, shimmering in the lava light. It is a ghost, an ethereal spirit. Who are you? She asks. The spirit ignores her, seeming far more interested in Swampy, as her spectral form flits around the dog and Swampy chases after her playfully. Sally steps towards the spirit, but the crust beneath her feet begins to give way as she steps across the ashen floor, revealing a flow of molten magma below. She stumbles back, just in time to avoid falling into the deadly burning lava. Then, from somewhere in the distance, there is the laughter of a dark god. Booming laughter echoes through the cavern's chamber, giving her the distinct feeling that she is but a plaything for the amusement of a dark god. Her heart sinks as she begins to imagine what twisted evils lay ahead. The spirit suddenly looks terrified, taking notice of the dark god's laughter. She stops playing with Swampy and looks up at Sally Mason, just in time to see Beaumont and Torinobu emerging round the corner as they come to join the young girl with Kane Winters and Steve Earle. That's her. That's Lucy Hancock, says Beaumont.
Yes, she is the spectre who has haunted my dreams also,
says Torinobu. Both men are disheartened to see that after all this time, Lucy Hancock is but a spirit, a shadow of her former self. She has indeed passed on, and they fear their entire quest has been in vain. That's her. That's the girl I saw in my dream. It must be Lucy Hancock. But, she's a ghost. She's already dead. We're too late.
It seems our entire quest was in vain.
Well, there's nothing more we can do for her. Come on, let's get out of here.
Wait, Beaumont-san. Look.
Beaumont looks and sees the ghostly figure of Lucy Hancock pointing at the ground, a look of desperation on her face. He looks to where she is pointing and sees an ancient piece of wood carved with mysterious runes and glyphs, tucked away in a small marble alcove. Hello, what do we have here then? Beaumont says and reaches out, grabbing hold of the wooden tablet. He is instantly struck by a surge of energy that paralyzes him. The runes on the tablet begin to glow, and Beaumont's mind is filled with images and strange whisperings. Then, just as quickly as it begun, the visions cease and the energy dissipates from the wooden tablet. This is it. This is what she wanted to show us. This is why Lucy's spectre brought us all here.
What is it, Beaumont-san?
It's an ancient chronicle, written by those who sealed the Shadow King away aeons ago. I heard their ancient words in my mind, and they said this ancient Shadow King, Belial, is rising from the ashes once more, and when he does, well, let's just say Brimstone County will have a lot more to worry about than just Akuma no Jin. Belial is made from shadows and ash. We're not going to be able to defeat him. The only thing we can do is seal him away, imprison him once more, and to do that, we must find the ancient seals that were used by these holy men to do the job last time round. But I must confess, I have no idea where we should begin looking.
Hey, look, I think she's trying to tell us something.
They all once again look at the spectre of Lucy Hancock and see that her ethereal form is floating desperately around one of the marble archways that lead deeper into the caverns. I think she wants us to follow her.
We must follow her. She is our only hope, and we must imprison this barrier once again.
You know, Torinobu, on this occasion, I completely agree. The spirit of Lucy Hancock leads Beaumont, Torinobu, and the rest of the posse deeper into the magma mines of Cynder. Now, with the ancient chronicle in their possession, they realize they can seal away this evil, dark god forever. And although it is a daunting task, they know they must accomplish this, or else the monstrosity will be freed upon the whole world to wreak its terrible destruction. Well, I have to be honest, I don't fancy our chances fighting a god, but if that's what we have to do, then I suppose we should get to it.
Come, Beaumont-san, we must move. There is no time to waste. The Chronicle will guide our way.
Yes, well, excuse me if I don't have as much faith in an ancient magical piece of wood.
I would have faith enough for the both of us, Beaumont-san.
As the two men walk slowly deeper into the caverns, Sally Mason runs ahead and finds her way into a gigantic throne room. The great marble seat is no doubt that of Belial, the Shadow King. Chained to the floor at the centre of the room is an emaciated and twisted figure, shielding his eyes from the lantern's light. He turns away as they try to speak to him. With a low cackle, he glances back at them, offering up little more than insane ramblings and a whispered riddle.
I am born and grow from the dark, but I wither and die in the light.
Sally Mason looks confused at first, and then says, "A shadow? It's a shadow, of course. That's what he's talking about." "Yes, of course it bloody well is," says Beaumont. "Everybody knows that. It's obvious, really." "He's probably trying to tell us we're on the right path, eh, Torinobu?"
Oh, yes, I think you are right, Beaumont-san.
As they move deeper into the throne room, they hear the strange noise of gnashing and biting and grinding rock and boiling lava, when suddenly one of the walls of the throne room begins to glow bright hot and crumbles into a pile of semi-molten slag, revealing a horde of strange little fiends that seem to float through the air like animated balls of rock, spewing gobbets of molten lava from their mouths. They appear to be chewing through the cavern walls and melting everything in their path. "We really don't have time for this," Beaumont says, rushing forward and hurling a stick of dynamite into the midst of the swarm of little creatures. The dynamite explodes, and the blast destroys all but two of the magma fiends in an eruption of sentient stone. Torinobu takes a step forward, but finds himself unable to move any further due to the oppressive heat. Sally Mason, however, easily sprints to the other side of the throne room, getting a better angle on the remaining magma fiends. She opens fire on one of them, and a well-placed bullet cracks one of them, shattering its rocky facade and leaving it in a pile of molten, bubbling magma on the ground. Then, Swampy runs up to the final one, leaping at it, and amazingly, his gnashing teeth somehow rip parts of the rock free from the magma fiend's body. However, the dog quickly spits out the burning chunks and realizes the mistake it's made as it yelps in pain. Steve Earle charges in to save the dog and swings his pickaxe at the bubbling magma fiend, cracking off shards of the floating boulder, but failing to destroy it. Finally, Kane Winters steps in, and with a well-placed shot from his revolver, the rocky little creature shatters and falls to the ground in a molten pile. "Ha! It took all three of you to destroy just one of them. I got mine with the first shot," says Sally Mason. Beaumont looks at her quizzically. "Well done, Sally. You truly are the greatest of all heroes." "And don't you forget it," she says, spinning her revolver. "Ha! Growing up to be quite the little gunslinger, eh, missy?" says Kane Winters. Beaumont moves further into the throne room, looking toward the passage that was carved by the magma fiends. "Let's see where those little buggers were coming from, shall we?" says Beaumont. He begins to head towards the passageway, while Sally Mason heads to the other exit of the throne room and finds herself emerging into the icon platform, where she finds a sinister icon is etched into the stone floor, while carved channels carry magma to form the burning glory of Belial. It is the sign of the Shadow King. Meanwhile, finds himself passing through the molten doorway into a statue chamber. An ancient stone soldier stands watch over the passage ahead with fire in his eyes. His stare burns into Beaumont's soul and his flesh. Beaumont feels the burning eyes bore into him, and then, whatever arcane magic powers this thing causes his clothes to burst into flames. "Ah, what the bloody hell?" he says, pulling off his jacket and stamping the flames out. "Well, it feels like we've reached a point of no return," he says, feeling in his bones that this place, this hell, will be his downfall, and this will be their last chance for redemption. Meanwhile, Tornobu hears a chilling voice creep into the back of his mind, coaxing him to find it and set it free, to release it from its bindings. The rewards would be beyond reckoning. It is hard to resist the temptations. "Release me! Release me, Torinobu! Release me, and all your dreams shall come true." Torinobu steels himself against the voice, knowing it is nothing but lies from the Shadow King.
"Begone, foul demon. I will listen to none of your lies and promises, for they are all just trickery."
Kane Winters and Steve Earle catch up with Beaumont, just as the gambler begins to cross the statue chamber in search of the Shadow King. He makes his way through another marble archway, finds himself at a lava lake. Churning on the far end of the chamber is a roiling lake of liquid magma. It is difficult to even look at it without his eyes watering from the blistering heat. Torinobu turns to Steve Earle and Kane Winters.
"Winters-san, you go with the Swampy and Beaumont. Steve-san, please accompany me to make sure no harm comes to Sally Mason."
"All right there, partner. You two head that way. We'll meet back in the throne room once we find this no-good Belial." The impetuous Sally Mason does not wait for Torinobu or Steve Earle to catch up to her and races across the icon platform, heading through yet another of the marble archways. In the distance, she can hear echoes of agony and finds herself emerging into a torture chamber. The chamber is filled with tools of torture and machines of pain and suffering. From the spatters of blood and claw marks in the stone, it looks as though many a sad soul met a gruesome end in this room. Sally Mason grits her teeth in rage.
This is worse than those Crimson Cult freaks. I'll stop this Billy Owl if it's the last thing I do,
she says. In the lava lake, Beaumont finds himself surrounded by dripping magma. As he steps through the twisting lava tubes and tunnels, he hears a sizzling sound. Smoke rises from his scorched jacket, and he realizes that small drops of magma are raining down from the ceiling here. "Look out!" he yells, and dives into Kane Winters, sending them both crashing to the ground, just as a great gout of magma spatters the ground where Winters had been standing. "I don't care much for being knocked to the ground, mister, but then it does look like you just saved my life. So, thank you very much, sir," he says, climbing back to his feet. As Sally Mason prepares to enter the torture chamber, she hears a whispering voice.
"Welcome, Sally. It would seem you have run right into your final resting place."
A swirling, dark shadow emerges from the depths of the torture chamber and slowly takes form into that of a giant winged creature covered in a long red tattered cloak. It wears obsidian black armor with gold etchings, and within the hood that hides its face there is nothing but a swirling black abyss of infinity. And in her heart, Sally Mason knows the darkness grows ever closer. The rest of the posse hear Sally Mason's terrified screams from deeper in the Caverns of Cynder, and then they hear the laughter of the Dark God, a laugh of triumphant evil.